All right, Alex, let's jump right in. UFC 311. First pay-per-view of the year, as we said. Last week, we had the first card of the year, UFC Vegas 101, I believe.
Yeah, we abstained from recording because Christian went and adopted a new puppy.
New dog.
Shout out Zoe.
But we still watched, and it was a great card to start the year off.
It was a hell of a...
I think on the main card, 5 out of the 6 fights were finishes.
Yep, Christian Rodriguez, Ashton Bashi.
It's the only decision.
Was the only decision. Still a good fight. Every fight on the card, in my opinion, I think... I appreciated him a little bit more because we had that month without fights.
And it was also one of those cards that didn't have a lot of hype, but if you actually watched it, you're like, oh, damn, these are entertaining. So
absolutely.
It was a great way to start off the year, but now this is the real start of the year. First pay-per-view of the year, UFC 311. Still to be determined if they're actually going to hold it in LA or not. It's supposed to be at the Intuit Dome, the home of the Clippers.
Yeah, that's in Inglewood, California.
Inglewood.
The forest fire is probably tearing that apart. Not it, but the area surrounding it.
It's a new $1 billion arena, so hopefully it's not getting burned down. But
that's what
could move to Vegas last moment. But anyway, the card's still going on. It's a 5-fight main card, as all pay-per-views are.
Yep.
Every one of these fights has notable names, big implications, and let's start off with the first fight, the main card opener. Big mouth Kevin Holland, Trailblazer, whatever you want to call him. Kevin Holland taking on Reinier de Ridder.
Yes, the Dutch Knight.
The Dutch Knight. The Dutch Knight comes in 18-2 overall, 1-0 in the UFC. His UFC debut was a third-round submission of the submission king, Gerald Meerschaert.
Yep.
That was back.
GM3.
That was back in November. De Ridder, however you say his name, out of his 18 wins, he has a clear path he likes to go down. 13 of them are by submissions, so that's what this guy likes to do. But he does have 3 KO wins. Yep. And he's taking on, as everybody knows, Kevin Holland. I think Kevin Holland's pretty well known UFC circles. Very entertaining guy.
Jumps across divisions, middleweight, welterweight, is it? I believe.
Middleweight, welterweight. Yep. Not always the most consistent guy with a 13-9 and 1 no contest UFC record, but needless to say, he's entertaining, and he can kind of do everything. He can knock you out. He can give you submissions, but he can also be knocked out and get submitted.
Yep.
So he's a wild card, very entertaining. I think this is a great way to start off the main card, especially for the first pay-per-view of the year.
I agree. For me, this is a test, proving ground for Reinier de Ridder.
Yeah, because as you said, it's a testing ground because Kevin Holland, what he's shown is if you're one of the top guys in the division, you'll probably be able to get past Kevin Holland.
Right. He's a gatekeeper in 2 divisions. But he said that he would do that.
But if you're not, Kevin Holland will start you and embarrass you.
Right.
So he's a very weird, very precarious position.
Right. Let's talk about benefits of both fighters. Kevin Holland, on one hand, is very long, 81-inch reach, very long striker.
He has 10 UFC finishes, too.
Unorthodox striker at that. So, those long strikes, he's creative. He's a Kung Fu black belt, a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. He has ways of putting it down while also having a good submission game and knockout power. De Ridder, on the other hand, while he lacks the striking ability that
I would say he
Holland
lacks it. He still has striking ability.
He's just not as precise as Kevin Holland.
He has a more preferred way to go about it.
You're going to see more of ground game, strong guard game. Like I said, not as strong striking as Kevin Holland, but he's dangerous
and
either way.
And he is a former one champion. So he's coming from a new organization. He was the champ there.
What I looked at for this one, De Ridder, I watched his only fight in the UFC. That was his most recent fight with GM3. GM3 was winning that fight until GM3 got, subbed at the end of the third. It was a good fight, but it wasn't the fight that you expected to see out of De Ridder coming to the UFC. I picked Kevin Holland because Kevin Holland's that unorthodox striker. He's gonna give him those striking showings that De Ridder, in my opinion, won't be able to handle, and match the ground game at least when he needs to.
I agree with you that Holland probably has the advantage on the feet, but I think De Ridder has the obvious advantage on the ground. And I think that's going to be the deciding factor in this. I think De Ridder, as you said, it wasn't the most impressive performance for Meerschaert, but Meerschaert is a ground specialist, and he's a ground specialist, so it was a weird position to be in. Kevin Holland, although he has nice submissions, I don't think anybody would call him a ground specialist, a submission specialist.
Right. He's a smart fighter who takes advantage of situations.
Yes. So I'm going to go with the Dutch Knight. I got De Ridder getting the win over Kevin Holland.
All right. right off the bat for the year, we're going to go to a difference. All right, let's go to the next fight. Lightweight division. Beneil Dariush, Benny, taking on Renato Money Moicano. This is an interesting one because...
two careers go in opposite directions.
At least recently. So, Beneil Dariush, he was knocked out, I believe, first round by Arman last time out in 2023.
And then before that, he was knocked out first round by Charles.
Yes.
His last two fights has been knocked out first round.
Hasn't fought since December 2023. He tore his meniscus and suffered brain damage. Since the Arman fight, he had the brain damage. Had to rehab.
But one interesting thing, we just talked about the two losses he's had in a row. Before that, he won 8 straight, and he was arguably one of the hottest and underappreciated guys in the whole 155 division.
Yep. Only 35.
16.
Contemplated moving to welterweight even in the past.
He's a big lightweight.
Yeah.
He has 16 career UFC wins alone. So he's a guy, 16 wins, 6 losses, 1 draw. I mean, as we said, we've looked at records all the time, every week. That's an impressive UFC record. 16 wins, no ways about it. You're a good fighter.
And not to shit on Moicano at all. He's by all means been a great fighter his entire career. His 5 losses came all in the UFC, so he came into the UFC undefeated. All 5 of those losses came between 2017 and 2022, but he rebounded spectacularly in 2024, going 3-0.
Yeah, and
is he going to ride that lightning going straight up the top?
He's won 4 in a row too.
Right.
So overall, and the last 2 of them have been by stoppage, TKO, which is not something he's known for. He's more of a ground guy, but he's proven he's getting.
He's sharpened up his skills in the past few years for sure.
Sharpened up his skills. His last fight was a win against BSD Beneil. Benoit Saint-Denis in Paris, and it was a doctor stoppage, but it was a doctor stoppage because Moicano beat BSD's face so bad the cut was, you couldn't even recognize his face.
Exactly.
So it was a good doctor. It was a doctor stoppage that was earned by Moicano.
You're exactly right. Like we said before, Moicano's difference in career trajectory. Moicano's looking for a title shot. He's going to try to get one this year, or stake his claim for one next year, if not this year. I got to pick Moicano. We're going to ride the lightning on that one.
Yeah, I'm agreeing with you. I'm picking Moicano, and I agree with you that he is this 155 division.
Stacked as it is.
Has been stagnant, the same guys at the top. So Moicano can take advantage of that by having an impressive performance here and maybe one more win. And it's going to be, Islam's not going to fight the same guys over and over again.
Right.
Moicano jumps in for a title shot. I think by the end of the year, he gets a win here. End of the year, Moicano may be looking at a shot for the belt.
I would definitely agree. Next up, light heavyweight division.
Speaking of shots for the belt.
Jiri Prochazka.
Former light heavyweight champ.
Taking on Jamahal Hill.
Former light heavyweight champ.
Who have both lost their recent opportunities to Alex Pereira.
Current light heavyweight champ.
There you go. I don't know what else to say, man. This is a hard one. Just
this
right
is
going to
be this one is not going to go the distance.
No, I imagine it's not.
Neither guy is a distance guy.
Both fighters here have cemented themselves in very short amounts of time in the UFC as all-time title challengers in some way, shape, or form. They're
some
always
of the scariest guys too in the UFC.
And they're completely different. You have Jamahal Hill, who's got precise striking. I don't want to say bad footwork or anything, but he stands more flat-footed. And Jiri, he's striking from crazy positions.
He's the most unorthodox fighter in the UFC,
and he trains
by far.
Exactly,
and he trains for it.
He trains for it. So
one crazy thing, Jiri, he's fought 36 times in his career.
Only 6 UFC fights.
Only one of those 36 fights has gone to the scorecard.
Correct.
26 career KOs. He's 4-2 in the UFC. All finishes, but those 2 losses, as you said, both to Alex Pereira, both knockouts.
Yeah. So that's really what I'm looking at for this one. Both guys, they took over the light heavyweight division when Alex Pereira was in middleweight fighting Izzy. So as soon as Alex Pereira comes to light heavyweight, he does,
He beats both of them.
And then beats one of them twice.
Yeah.
Jamahal Hill here is trying to find a way to get back to a title shot after, in his mind, does not deservedly being beaten, although everybody watched him get knocked out cold.
In the first round.
So it's, for me, this one is, is technical ability going to win, or is the unorthodox style going to catch him? That's why the odds are even. Both are fantastic fighters. I got Jiri Prochazka winning this fight.
Yeah, so Jamahal Hill, he's he's only fought twice since January of 2023. So that's 2 fights in 2 years. This will be his 3rd fight. His last fight, as we said, was the knockout loss. Then he got hurt and he's been out a while.
Right.
Jiri, for his thing, even though he lost his last one, he's been a little more active lately. I think this is a toss-up. I think, as you said, the odds are pretty fair.
Yeah.
In terms of, it's a very unpredictable fight. But I'm going to agree with you. I think Jiri goes in. I think Yuri's going to get the knockout win over Jamahal.
Sweet. We agree there.
Let's move on to title shots now.
Title shots. So first up,
title fights, excuse me.
Will Merab Dvalishvili defend his title for his first defense against Umar Nurmagomedov?
This was definitely Dana White. He never liked Merab ever since that Aljo thing.
Yeah.
And this is him saying, okay, you won the title. You beat my boy.
You ain't getting an easy one.
You're getting one of those Khabib guys to come over
You're
here.
getting one of the toughest tests we could give you as your first defense. This is a tough one. You got Merab, 18-4 in his career. He's a largely decision fighter.
He's 11-2 in the UFC, but 11 straight wins. He lost his first 2 UFC fights, and then his one kind of dominated every single one since.
He beats people by cardio, pace, takedown ability,
and he
aggression, relentlessness.
He just like takes the will out of people.
Yeah.
And he's taking on a guy who hasn't lost at all, though, Umar.
18-0, Umar Nurmagomedov, 2 KOs, 7 subs, 9 decisions.
6-0 in the UFC.
The challenger is the heavy favorite right now, minus 320 on the live odds. So that's a big deal.
He's 6-0 in the UFC. His last fight was against Corey Sandhagen. Everybody said it's the biggest fight of his career.
Yep.
Biggest test, big step up in competition, which it was. And he passed the test with flying colors. He kind of dominated Corey Sandhagen.
Yeah, Umar...
who has everybody's respect, really.
Umar works the typical Dagestani fighter thing. You know, he's a great striker with like dominant Dagestani wrestling. I don't know what you're going to do. I mean, this is a very fun fight regardless of the odds because somebody like Merab isn't going to be largely scared of being taken down because you're not going to beat his cardio.
Yeah,
you're going to have to beat him. So that's the one benefit of this fight.
It's going to be interesting.
Of the champ and the challenger, you have great wrestling versus great wrestling, great ground game versus great ground game. The question,
I think it's because of that.
Happen?
It's either going to be.
I think this is
whose wrestling is going to be better. I think it is going to be a decision fight. Is one of them's wrestling better? We're going to find out. And if both wrestling stalemate, it's going to be who's going to win the striking matchup.
Or is it a pace issue? Can Merab push the pace so hard that Umar can't keep
tired?
up?
Yes.
Those are all questions that are being asked.
I think there's a lot of questions to be asked, but there's one thing I've learned, and I've not always followed this rule.
And I need to start following it more because I think I know
But there's
the
one
exact
thing
rule you're
we've
saying.
learned is don't go against any guy with the last name Nurmagomedov.
Yeah.
Don't go against any Dagestani guy. Because 9 times out of 10 they're going to win.
And it's very hard to go against the undefeated guy too.
Very hard to go against the
those guys
undefeated
are
guy,
gonna win as well.
especially a guy that coming from Dagestan. He's undefeated. I like Merab in terms of I respect him. I think he's very good. I think he's a deserving champ. He dominated Sean O'Malley.
Yep.
But I think his title run, at least this one, I don't know if he's going to come back to it, is going to be very short-lived. I got Umar getting the belt, getting another belt for Dagestan.
I agree. I have Umar by decision. I wholeheartedly agree. Let's go to the lightweight main event. Will Islam go down as the greatest lightweight of all time? With this fight, he's starting to really cement it.
He is starting to cement it against his
rival for the second time, Arman Tsarukyan, the challenger, plus 300 coming in. So this is a very big one. 4th potential title defense for Islam Makhachev. 3 defenses and dominated each one of them.
Yeah. 26.
Whether we love Dustin
Dustin had a good fight.
He did have a good fight, but it was Makhachev's fight all the way.
Makhachev is 26-1 overall. He's 15-1 in the UFC with 14 straight wins.
Yep.
He got caught his second fight, and since then he's just dominated. As you said, he has the Dagestani thing where his wrestling is unbelievable.
Yep.
But one thing he has that's better than even Khabib's.
Striking.
His striking is very good. It's gotten so much better. He can hang with these strikers. I think he's rocked every quote-unquote striker that's better than him that he's fought. He's rocked them all.
Yeah, I agree. You think that he's going to come in here and just do the typical Dagestani wrestler thing and he's just going to wrestle you out? In reality, he strikes with him, then wrestles.
And he has some kicks.
Picks him apart. That's what he did to Arman the first time. It was, of course, his toughest fight, but it was early in both of their careers. So now, a rematch, you want to see how much Arman's learned, right? Islam's learned a lot as well.
Yes.
I have to think that all things remaining equal, Islam's learned just as much, if not more.
I would say
Arman.
Islam's learned more. Arman, though, let's give him his props. He's 22-3 overall.
Yep.
9-2 in the UFC with 4 straight wins. He's won 9 out of 10 fights. So he's a guy, a deserving title shot for him. He's a rising star. He's still young, especially for this division. If you look at this division, the 155, most of them are in like their mid-30s.
Yep.
Arman's only 28, so this probably, depending on how he performs, won't be his last title shot if he were to lose this fight.
Right.
Arman gave him a tough fight the first time they fought, but I think it was a deserved Islam win.
What
So I think
about 5 rounds for this time? That's a big key
that is
difference.
and Islam has proven he can go 5 rounds. He went 5 rounds with Dustin. He went 5 rounds with Volk.
Yeah.
And those are 2 guys, like, if you can go 5 rounds with them, that's tons of experience.
Tons of damage, tons of striking power, tons
Yes.
of different kinds of looks coming at you.
But yeah, again, I went over the rule the last fight with Umar. I'm not picking against Islam Makhachev.
Rule number 1, don't pick against the Dagestani wrestler.
Yes.
And
Especially when that Dagestani wrestler has hands like Islam does. I like Arman. I just think Islam is right now as close to untouchable as you're going to get in the UFC and in the 155 division. So I got Islam.
I agree. I have Islam by finish.